Okay, that's better. Hi, everyone. How are you? Good morning, everybody. Welcome, welcome in. I'm so excited to see all of you guys here. Before we start, and before I say good morning to everybody, let's hear a word from our sponsor. Okay? Let me get to it because I had to come in on my phone because my dadgum laptop was lagging so bad. I don't know what it was doing. All right, here we go.
And Kai, when you're on Jen Lou's channel, what do you do with the like button?
Smash, smash, smash! Yeah.
All right. So if you guys could do that for me, smash, smash, smash the like button, I would appreciate it. Or smash the dislike button. I'm kind of curious what that does myself. I'm so glad to see everybody. Mike. Guess what day it is? Hump day. All right, let me get over to the YouTubes so we can get this show on the road because today is supposed to be a big day. We have we have Dr. Lewis. She's back on the stand, just to recap a little bit. And she will be continuing her being cross-examined by the prosecutor. And we were promised yesterday at the end of the day one of the last things the prosecutor said was, you know, we're going to be playing videos. And I he's got to be talking about the videos with Maria, right? Surely he's going to show Maria. Then I started thinking about it though, right? What if, just follow me here. What if he doesn't want to show Maria? What if he doesn't play Maria? Because what if he doesn't want to take the risk by showing her that a juror buys it? I was thinking about that today. While I was separating laundry. You guys, I'm so behind on everything having to do with housework. I mean, obviously I made dinner last night and I got the dishes and all that done from last night and everything. But like laundry I'm behind on. I need to vacuum. We had some rain over the weekend and it pooled in the trash cans outside and like I need to take care of that. And it's just too. She's late again, y'all. She is late again. I'm gonna put it live so we can watch it, and I want to, rewind it really quickly because they're gonna be in recess for, like, 5 to 10 minutes. I cannot believe that she is late again. I need to get down to the bottom of this. I need to understand why she's late again. I really do. This is really disconcerting. So, let me rewind it. Hold on. Hang on. Let me rewind it for you guys so we can hear all the things. Hold on. All right. Let me make this bigger. Let me add it to the stream. Also, I don't know if I said this already because I really do feel a little out of it today. I honestly feel a little hungover. That's how I feel. Like I'm tired and like thirsty. I mean, literally, my mouth is dry. I feel I feel a little hungover. I'm not gonna lie. All right,
Should refuse.
all right, here we go. What is Kurtz? Thought okay. I thought she did the contempt curtsy, but you're saying no, I thought you did right, the contempt curtsy. At first, I thought you wrote the contempt courtesy, which obviously would make no sense. So, hold on, let me get it to where we can actually hear him.
That we didn't, and I told Mr. Tellini we could do it at a different time. All right, before we bring the jury in, there was one thing that we should have done yesterday that we didn't, and I told Mr. Tellini we could do it at a different time.
So much
and
to
now is
process.
that time. Mr. Tellini, did you have motions that you wanted to make?
I do, Your Honor. I would make
Go ahead.
motions for judgment of acquittal on all charges, specifically first degree murder premeditation. There has been lack of evidence showing premeditation on behalf of the defendant.
Okay. Prosecution?
Your Honor, there's been more than enough evidence presented on premeditation as it relates to count one, specifically and most glaringly in the form of those searches that were discovered on the defendant's phone, evidencing a desire to leave the state of Colorado to seek employment and housing out of state for a one-bedroom, one-bathroom apartment in Orlando, Florida. And then obviously all of the efforts that were put forth by the defendant to then cover up the crime, showing consciousness of guilt. And so we would ask the court to deny the motion for judgment of acquittal.
All right. The standard that the court must apply at this point, or at this stage in the proceedings, is that the court must take the evidence in the light most favorable to the prosecution and determine whether or not there is sufficient evidence upon which a jury could conclude beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty of the charges that have been brought against her. With respect to defense counsel's argument regarding premeditation, there are messages or indications that the defendant was conducting searches regarding a life elsewhere, essentially, jobs, places to live, perhaps even connections with singles in another area. There's also indications that the defendant had been unhappy.
Okay, so what you missed, Corky, was the defense. The jury hasn't been brought in. Okay, I had to rewind. Okay, so what the defense is trying to do is, and this happens in a lot of trials. Okay, we saw it with Alex Murdaugh. It's happened. Oh my gosh, I can't think. That's the most recent one that it happened in. Okay. Oh, it happened in the Wagner trial as well. So the defense said that they would like to make a motion for the judge to dismiss the charges of first-degree murder. Okay. And what the judge has to do, so then the prosecution basically says, bruh, really? There's like a lot of evidence against her, especially and including the Google searches, et cetera, et cetera. And now the judge is weighing in on it. He's not going for it. This is and that's where we're at.
In her marriage, that there was a discussion about that, but nothing was necessarily reached. There was a statement by the defendant at some point in time in which she said, "I should have just left last week." All of this occurred before the death of Gannon. It's not surprising, or this would not be the first case in which someone was in an unhappy marriage and some crime was committed as a result of that. I think there is sufficient evidence upon which a jury could conclude,
This happens all
if
the
it
time.
were
This
to
is
believe
normal
that evidence
procedure.
credible and give weight to that evidence,
They got to try
a jury
it.
could conclude beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant was guilty. Again, the court has to take the evidence at this stage of the proceeding in the light most favorable to the prosecution and must not make any credibility determinations at this point either. As such, the court believes that it is a jury issue for jurors to determine whether or not the prosecution has in fact established beyond a reasonable doubt all of the charges which it has brought. Is there anything else that we need to address? Prosecution?
No, not anything that we can think of, Judge.
Defense?
Yes. Mr. Cook is retrieving Dr. Lewis.
Okay, so she's not in the building yet?
That's my understanding.
Okay. Do we know where she is? Or how far away?
They're in transit.
Okay, so probably about, like yesterday, about 5-10 minutes or so, something like that. Okay.
You
All
see?
right. Court will be in recess then until we have Dr. Lewis.
I know, Crime Curious. This is poppycock. This is the very, very definition of poppycock. Honestly. She was told to be there at a specific time, and under no circumstances was she to be late, and yet here we are. So it's very disconcerting. It's not a good look. In my opinion, it is incredibly disrespectful to the court. And I will say this, in my experience, one of the things that judges abhor is when the court's time is wasted. And she is wasting the court's time. Now, whose issue that is? Geez, Jen Lou, push play for Pete's sake. Who caused it? Why it's occurred? I don't know. I actually would like for at some point, and probably it doesn't, I don't think it'll be handled in front of the jury. But I do think there should be an admonishment at this point. I recognize that I, I'm I bet 5 Marias she doesn't show. She's got to show because the lawyer's gone to get her. So I'll take that bet and I will raise you 7. Not Jacobs. What's the other? Jaspers that she does. Oh, I forgot. I don't know, Emily. I'm kind of curious about that. Like, what happened? Did he say to her, Ma, we got to head up the dispensary? I mean, look, yesterday was brutal and I need something. I need a little help me. I don't know. But it's disrespectful AF. And I really think that at some point there needs to be an admonishment at this point. I don't know. I feel like she didn't split. And the only reason why I feel like she didn't split is because Mr. Cook is on his way to retrieve her. So I feel like that is. Oh, Angel has bet 10 Edwards that the doc and the lawyer are in line at Starbucks. Yes, I did. They sent her the attorney to get her. So I feel like, yeah. See, the thing about Uber is, which I think is probably what happened yesterday. You can order the Uber, right? Timing an Uber is very, very tricky, but if you know how, if you only have, it only takes one time to figure it out, really. Because so you request an Uber, right, in the app, okay? But it depends on some factors, like the Uber drivers get offered it, right? And they have to accept it. And so there is an element of waiting in that regard. So what you ideally should do is really order your Uber like 10 minutes, depending on where you are. Like for me, if I were to order an Uber from where I am and I want to go to Clearwater, I have to account like I have an appointment. I'm not just kicking it at the beach, right? If I had an appointment, I would want to order the Uber about 15 to 20 minutes before I need the Uber to actually be here, before we need to be on our way, like accounting for traffic and just incidentals, I'm always of the opinion that if you're on time, you're late. And so yeah. That's what I'm saying, Nadie, and I just want you guys to know that when I scheduled the live, I made sure to uncheck the live chat. So I am perfectly willing to keep it that way. People can, vent how they want to. I mean, obviously within reason. Please don't be disrespectful to, me. There will be no victim shaming or blaming, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, if you guys feel like you need to, vent a little, it's fine. So that's how I feel that, Darius, that 5 minutes early is on time for me. If you are literally on time, you're late, in my opinion. I don't like it. I feel like when you're not on time, and
1358.
Here we
People
go.
versus Letecia Stauch. Record should reflect the jury's not present in the courtroom. We do have our witness on the stand, Dr. Lewis. I would just remind you, ma'am, that you're still under oath.
And you were late.
Is there anything else that we need to take up at this point, prosecution?
No, Your Honor.
Stop being
Yes.
late.
Okay, let's go ahead and bring the jury in.
It's rude and disrespectful. Also,
I'll tell you what's going on with-
we got 100 people in here and 59 likes. Come on, y'all, help a girl out. Oh well, we got 97 people now, but still, Give your girl a thumbs up. I'll adjust the layout as soon as they do what they're supposed to do when they bring the jury in finally. Hang on just one sec. Just want to hear something.
All right. For the be seated. Court will recall 20 CR 1358, People versus Letecia Stauch. Record should reflect the jury has returned to the courtroom. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Has anything occurred since we were last together that causes any of you to believe you could not continue to serve as a fair and impartial juror in this case? If so, please raise your hand. No response. All right. When we took our break yesterday, we were in the midst of the cross-examination of Dr. Lewis. That's where we will resume. Mr. Young?
Good morning. Morning, Dr. Lewis. How are you?
Good morning.
You okay?
In truth, I've had food poisoning since last night, but
Oh,
we'll carry on as best we can.
I'm sorry to hear that. If you need to take a break or anything,
If I do, I'll let you know.
okay. All right. I kind of want to talk a little bit more about dissociative identity disorder. During direct examination yesterday, you mentioned that there was some controversy with regards to that diagnosis. Could you expand on that? What is the controversy surrounding that diagnosis?
Well, the essential controversy is whether people believe it exists or not. I could give you an example of that. When I inquired of the chair of our department many years ago, did he believe that this existed? He said, I don't know. I have never seen it. And this is the kind of resistance there is to it. It's becoming more recognized, and it's in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual now, so that it's gaining acceptance, understanding. Also, I think with the ability to photograph things and to show things, it's becoming a more well-recognized disorder. Dissociation has been long recognized. It was really described very well by Freud.
Got it. In your book, you mentioned that oftentimes people can act out multi-personality disorder or dissociative identity disorder. And there's been several movies that kind of portray that. Do you recall talking about that?
No, but I'm aware that there are movies such as, I think, Sybil and others like that, where this has been done, and more recently in movies.
And the movie Sybil was based on a true life story, right?
That's correct. But I think Cornelia, very, very well respected psychiatrist, wrote about it, and it has been also made into a movie.
And the actual person that Sybil is named for actually turned out that that person was faking multi-personality disorder. Do you remember that?
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar enough with the case so that I can't comment intelligently about it.
Okay. Have you worked with any actors and helping them in their roles in movies?
No, I don't. Wait 1 moment. In their roles in dissociation?
Yes. Cape Fear, Robert De Niro.
I have assisted Robert De Niro in, I don't think it had to do with DID. I think it had to do with a different movie that he was making that where I agreed to assist them, but I don't believe it had to do with DID.
Had to do with him being a psychopath.
It had to do with his being a very dangerous guy.
And that's the movie Cape Fear, where he's a murderer and he has an urge to kill and things like that. I don't know all the details of the movie, but
Right.
is that a fair summary of it?
I don't know. There is a better one earlier than his that is a far better Cape Fear.
The
I
original.
did assist him in it, and he did. I did give him access to some tapes that we had of people with different kinds of disorders.
Did they include dissociative identity disorder?
Among them, there were some that did, some that didn't. Yes.
So how do you tell if someone's acting and they want you to believe that they have multi-personalities?
Well, I can tell you what I do.
Tell us, please.
Okay. What I like to do is be able to show that there were unmistakable signs of these kinds of switches, changes, different states, different abilities to function long before I was ever asked to be involved in any case. And so that is one of the best ways. I think that's the best way. It's that, to my mind, if I'm teaching, I will say to students, this is as close as you get to an MRI in this field, where you have something that was done. And again, I repeat, you can't retrospectively malinger. You can't write your name in a funny way or pretend to be somebody when you're 18, because when you're 35, you're planning to kill someone and you think you need a good excuse. That makes no sense. So that it's important for me and for the people with whom I work to be able to, well, identify in any number of ways whether these signs, symptoms, behaviors antedated any difficulty with the law or any current issue.
Sure. Things like family members coming in and saying, God, she didn't remember my name for long periods of time, or she blacked out and couldn't remember where she was at.
What are you referring to now?
For signs of dissociative identity disorder, retroactive.
No, that
wouldn't mean anything to you?
Well, that alone, no, that's very little bit. However, if you, let's say you're looking through somebody's work and you're looking through their high school, notebooks, or you're looking through early pictures, early signatures, things of that nature, and that these things way antedated any problematic behaviors later on, that, any legal issues. That is the kind of thing where, we found, for example, in the workbooks of children at school, where we've gone through them and we have found a different name that was used, and that was used at different times.
And so if I could, Dr. Lewis, you're saying that the writing would be more important than an individual saying, I blacked out for long periods of times, I have no recollection of what happened, and there's no explanation of—
I'm sorry.
Cell phones off, please.
I think it may be.
That's your cell phone, Dr. Lewis?
I think it might be me. I can
Okay.
assist.
All right.
Mozart.
It's very nice. Yeah, can you turn it silent?
I'm trying to find it.
Sure.
Yes. Okay. Well, okay, this should do it.
Okay.
Let's
I'm going to give it to Eric.
Why don't you give it to Eric?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let me know when you're ready, Dr. Lewis.
And I'm sorry, I don't recall your last
I'll
question.
re-ask it. You ready?
Mhm.
So is it more important to you to look at someone's prior handwritings than evidence of someone saying they had blackout periods and couldn't remember where they were at and they couldn't remember their loved ones' names and things like that?
Your second examples just don't ring true because it just is not something that people tend to tell me. And you can't measure this versus that. Often there have to be several things and combinations of signs, symptoms, behaviors. What is particularly useful is whether acquaintances or family members or people who have known the person over time have said, gee, when this person was such and such an age, he or she insisted on being called this and acted differently and did different things, so that it's a piece of data. And but that in and of itself, there is no single thing that you look for. But at least in the cases where we have felt that we were dealing with the real thing, there have been multiple evidence that at earlier times, for example, I noticed in some of my notes about Letecia that someone had said when she was younger, and I forgot this yesterday, when she was younger, she asked to be called Maria. And I had forgotten that yesterday.
Can you point me out where you found that information?
I'd have to look through all of this, but I can later if you like. I'll find it for you. It's just a note that I took because I thought it was interesting.
But what was it, in an interview, or where did you get that note?
As I say, rather than take up the time of the court and look through all of this, I will find it for you. But I just noticed it in the past maybe several hours or so. And I can find it for you because.
Well, here's the deal. I only have a X amount of time to talk to you.
Right, yes.
And so I can't really let this linger around because it's pretty significant.
I think so, yes. Oh dear. I'm sorry, I can tell you though that I came upon it in the past maybe 12 hours or so.
Well, do you know if it's something that the defendant told you?
No, it was not. That's what was interesting, that I had completely forgotten this, but I saw that someone who had been interviewed said when she was a child, at times she asked to be called Maria. That in and of itself is not a proof of anything, but it's a confirmation if you have a lot of other things that go along with it.
Well, it's certainly not in any police reports, correct?
As far as, no, it's not police reports.
It would be in a report that the defense gave you?
Here, again, I will be taking notes as I'm going through stuff and whatever. And here I have Letecia notes.
Dr. Lewis, Dr. Lewis,
Yes,
the way we have to do this is you need to read that to yourself and see if that refreshes your memory. And then once you've done that, I can ask you some questions, okay? Because I don't have that you have in front of you.
No. Um, Again, these are simply what I took and labeled Letecia notes from relatives. Can't tell you exactly who, but here it says, Letecia called self Maria Sanchez as a young child. And I have a little explanation when saying retrospective malingering, because that, you don't do that. At 12, you don't call yourself Maria because later on you're expecting to do something where you're going to have to make some sort of excuse. So this is what one of her relatives had told us, that she called herself Maria Sanchez as a young child. This came as a surprise to me. I had not recalled it, but I was skimming it, and there it was.
And Dr. Lewis, you've testified hundreds of times, and you know that you need to turn over your notes and everything you rely on as an expert in the prosecution, don't you?
Is that a question?
Yes, it is.
No. When
Your
I
obligations as an expert to turn over all the information that you use in formulating your opinions, correct?
Well, when I am sitting taking notes over different things, I do not necessarily even keep everything. I jot down something that I think may be important later, and I noticed that I jotted this down.
And it's so important that you found out about it last night. You came in and decided to tell the jury about it today. Is that correct?
I came upon it last night, I believe before this morning,
And
yes.
it's so important you made an effort to put it in your report that you knew that the prosecution was going to get. Is that correct?
No, it is not. I sat when I was going over notes, trying to pull together things ages ago, and jotted that down because I thought, gee, that's odd. She had just mentioned Maria to me very recently, and somebody had said this when I wrote down L called self Maria as a young child. If I thought I was going to have to prove this particular statement to someone, I would have written down who said it or whatever. I was pulling together my thoughts at the time and going through and seeing what kinds of things seem to matter. And it is a note taken while I was going through hundreds of pages of notes. And to my surprise, this appeared. And I had no memory of having seen it before until I looked at it, skimming through it, and found it in the past, I would say, 12 hours or so.
It was until you realized you had nothing to corroborate your diagnosis that she was Maria Sanchez and you needed to come up with something. Is that right?
No, it was
Why
written.
wasn't that in your report, doctor? If it was that significant, that's the only corroboration you have. Why is it not in your report?
It is not the only corroboration that we have, sir. This is an observation as you go through hundreds of pages of notes and you see something there that you hadn't expected. And so I'll jot it down and think, gee, that's kind of interesting. But there are many other pieces of evidence that there were other times that that she apparently used other names and that she signed differently. But for example, there are notes where there are different names, but if you really study them, it turns out they were her names. They were before she was married, they were when she was married to one person, then to another. And I will write them down because what at first may look as if, gee, why is there this name? Did she use that? And then you're an idiot if you say, oh yeah, she was in an altered state, when no, she was in an unmarried state, or she was married to a different person. So that when I'm going through things, I'll jot something down. I happened to jot this down because I thought, how come that early? I don't think I became aware of the Maria character until I had interviewed her.
Yeah, that's when everyone became aware of it.
Well,
It's
here,
significant to you
Yeah.
that family members, including her daughter, Harvey Hunt, her husband, Al Stout, had never seen any signs or any evidence that she had different personalities.
I can't comment on that because people's ability to recognize things, the ways in things the ways things are asked make a difference. So I can't in general say, yes, this matters. No, it does not. This is interesting.
Well,
Somebody knows.
before you go off on another tangent, let me finish my question, okay? You consider that there was no evidence by family members that she had no patients that she had disassociative.
That specifically,
Yes.
I did not think about that specifically because different personas are either recognized differently because of the sensitivity of the observer, or they don't occur in that setting, and they occur in another setting.
And it doesn't help your diagnosis of dissociative identity disorder, correct? Is that why you don't consider it?
No, it's interesting that they did not notice this. It may even be one of them who said this, who said, no, I never noticed anything different. And yet, one of these people said,
I think we got what
she
your
told
note
herself
says,
that.
doctor. Okay.
Well, that could well be one of the people who said, I never noticed she was different, but, sometimes she called herself Maria. So that you're open to whatever comes your way. You try to jot down what seems important, and then you try to pull it together later. But there is no one thing that will say, oh, yes, this person suffers from DID or does not. There's a whole constellation of different things that you look at, that you consider, and no one thing that matters
Okay,
particularly.
let's talk about something that matters to you that you put in your report, okay? You had Miss Stauch drew, I forget the name of the test, where they draw the clock and they have to put the hands of the clock. What's the name of that test?
I don't know, I call it clock.
We'll call it the clock test. Is that all right with you?
Yeah.
So you had her perform the clock test and she did horrible on it.
Well, she did something that I've seen before on with like older patients who have been actually demented, and I actually consulted Dr. Marikangas about it and others because it looks as though there is some kind of a defect in the ability to see certain areas, and so that everything was crowded into one area. And I have seen this in patients with dementia, and dementia can be caused by many different injuries. So that I was surprised. The other thing that is surprising is that I didn't know quite what to make of it. I knew there was something unusual, and I had asked her again, would you do this again? And she did a much better job of it. And then I remembered I jotted down L because when she had done something with her right hand, and then I hadn't asked her to change hands at that point, but I wondered, why are these different? And one with the left hand had been done one way, and with the right hand another way, so that she functioned differently, and also she functioned differently at different times, which puzzles me. This is partly why I very much wanted to consult a neurologist, because I don't feel that I am familiar enough, skilled enough, trained enough to say this is the section of the optic area that I think is functioning differently at this time.
Did the thought ever cross your mind that she could be faking it, just wanting to have you have the opinions you have? pretty easy, right, to mess up the hands on the clock,
She
knowing.
didn't mess up the hands on the clock. She created one section of it. I didn't know until relatively recently that this was typical of certain people with brain dysfunction in certain areas. No, it did not occur to me that that was faking something, because afterwards, when I said, would you repeat this? Would you do it again? That she did a better job on it. And this is still a puzzle to me. And if I had the proper consultation, I would have discussed it with neurologists and tried to figure out, because the optic pathway is a very complicated pathway in the brain. It turns upside down, it moves back and forth, and a neurologist is far better equipped to say, this is where things seem to be going wrong.
Did you
no.
know that she had performed that test before?
I did not know whether she had or had not.
Had you reviewed the state hospital reports, both the competency evaluation and the insanity evaluations, correct?
I'm not sure at which point, but I am not aware. I'm not aware of having seen that. That was kind of my last minute thought. Is there anything I can do that might show me any neurologic dysfunction of any sort? And so I said, oh, would you please draw a clock for me? I didn't tell her which hand. I tend to just put something down and then pick it up. And I was staggered at what I saw, because it's a specific dysfunction. It isn't like trying to mess something up. It was in part of it. And then when I asked her to do it again, she did it better.
And doctor, I understand that you want the jury to hear what you have to say, but if you can just focus on my question and just answer it, okay? Did you review any prior tests that Ms. Stout took with regards to this clock test that you've been talking about?
I don't recall seeing another clock test at that time prior to what I had done, no.
Okay, if I can just have a second. For the clock test that Dr. Torres did. Something else. Yeah, okay. You know, may I retrieve an exhibit? It's People 736.
You may. Recall it. It's in a-
Where is that?
Within a single sleeve, if I remember right.
Fair. How about that, Dr. Lewis? We've got a couple exhibits in this case.
I also have other clocks here that I had asked her to, here are some. And I think these were done the same day. So it is a puzzle to me, and I don't pretend to, I don't pretend to be an expert on interpreting this, but
Well, let me show you.
There,
This
yeah.
exhibit,
Yeah.
736, okay? You see there in the top right-hand corner,
yes,
picture of a clock?
yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
familiar with that?
I'm not, I don't recognize this as having seen this actual page before,
Okay.
but it is a clock, and see what it said, draw a clock 10 past, what is it, 10 past 11? Yeah, it's
She did pretty good on that one, didn't she?
Well, yeah, it's not 10 past 11 really, but it's, I have others where she did better with me. And it puzzled me that, you know, at the time I said, would do it again and do it again. And it did improve. You know, I am puzzled by this phenomenon, and I can't explain it to you, except it is unusual that that particular way of drawing it has been found in individuals with severe brain damage, actually.
Well, and we were
and-
talking about insanity, doctor. We're talking about the time of the crime, correct?
We're talking about brain function at the time of the crime, and
So a test that was taken closer to the time of the crime would be more accurate as to what the brain function was happening at the time of the crime. Is that correct?
not necessarily.
So brain functions change over time,
Yes,
like change after you plead not guilty by reason of insanity?
and before and during. I mean, it changed there. I was with her, and when she produced this, that was kind of my last fling at seeing, is there any sign of organicity? And then afterwards, when I asked her to repeat it for me right then and there, she did a better job. And then I kind of looked and I marked that she had been using her left hand and then her right hand or vice versa. And sure, it varied right then and there. And I can't pretend to tell you exactly why. I think that with the assistance of a neurologist, we could at least have an idea of what was blocked off during part of this. And
Okay, I'm
I
going to
don't-
stop you again,
yeah.
doctor, because we're getting away from what the question was, okay? On direct examination, you indicated that a bookcase fell on her and she had to go to the hospital and she had a head injury as a result of that. Do you remember saying that yesterday?
I remember reading it, yes, and saying it. Yes.
And that happened close in time to the crime, before the crime.
I don't remember if it was close in time. It was a while back when she was teaching. I don't,
Colorado, correct?
I don't remember where or the date, but you tell me.
Make a determination regarding whether representation evidence objection.
Let me ask you this. You know that she was examined 2 days after the crime for head injuries, correct?
I'm not aware of how she was examined or by whom then right after the crime. I would have to look at it to, if I saw it, to refresh my memory.
Would it be significant to you if you saw that?
I would have to see what it said. It depends on what it said and how it said it and what they had done. So it could be.
Well, she was examined by a sane nurse, and the sane nurse was feeling her head and examining her head for injuries. Would that be significant to you and your determination that she may have a head injury?
If it were there, it could be significant. However, you don't necessarily feel on the outside what happened. If you shake something head, there are little hemorrhages that occur in the brain. You would not feel that if you examine. Now, sure, if something hits you on the head, you like to feel, because there will be a bump, but you can get a far more severe head injury by just doing that. And you can actually kill an infant, not literally by shaking the infant, and the brain goes back and forth in the cranium, and you will get hemorrhages, and depending on where they are, you will get some kind of disorders in the tell you exactly much more in the field of a neurologist. But
Hey, doctor, let me stop you again. Is it significant to you that a nurse examined the defendant 2 days after the crime and found no injuries to her head?
Is it significant in what way? Meaning that there were no injuries? No.
And that's because you could speculate and say she could have had a brain tumor, she could have had hemorrhages because someone was shaking her. Is that what your opinion is?
She had other injuries previously, so that it's good if the nurse actually did this. I'm not aware. I'm not aware of anybody's having felt her head. Maybe they did. I don't know. But it's that does not tell you enough. It tells you if there's a bump, you do know that something hit the skull, the outside.
I want to talk about psychosis for a while, okay? In an insanity case, it's real common that psychosis is involved if that person is truly insane, correct?
Often, yeah.
Doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists look for evidence of psychosis at the time of the crime in making those decisions, correct?
They look at it over a spectrum, but they do certainly look at it then, and they look at a lot of other things besides psychosis. But yes, one of the things that people look at are the signs, symptoms, behaviors of psychosis. Psychosis is not one little phenomenon. There are many different kinds of psychoses and signs of it, so that you're talking about such a broad topic.
I'm talking about them all. Any signs of psychosis is important when you're doing a sanity evaluation, correct?
Certainly.
And a classic example of someone who is truly legally insane would be a father who kills their daughter because they're hearing voices that their daughter is the devil. Feel like they have no choice but to kill their own daughter. And so they kill their daughter. Does that sound like something that might fit legal insanity?
It's your concept of one possible type of insanity.
Well, what's your concept? Does that seem?
There are many different concepts.
Let's just stick to this hypothetical.
Yeah.
Does it, yes or no? Does it fit your concept of what you feel insanity?
As I've said, insanity is many, many different things, and it depends. And insanity.
Okay to agree with me, doctor.
Well, no, all that I'm saying to you is you've given one layperson's notion of what insanity is. And, you could have given another story and I would have agreed with it or whatever. Sure, it's a possibility.
Okay, I'll take the possibility.
Okay.
In that circumstances, they wouldn't know the capacity to appreciate the wrongfulness of their act because they had a psychosis that something was telling them that their daughter was the devil. Follow me?
If you believe that, yes.
How do you believe that?
In a hypothetical story, I believe that you are giving an example of something. No, I don't believe that happened, but I certainly believe it's one of your concepts of what a psychotic episode can be like. And
Well,
I'll buy that could be one. Sure thing.
I'll take that.
I'll give it.
The other, to add that hypothetical, because the individual didn't appreciate the wrongfulness of his actions, he wouldn't do anything to hide the body. He would stand there and say, I did what had to be done. Right?
According to your notion of it, not necessarily, but I will buy that this is what you believe it to be. Say, no, I'm not going to hide it because it was good. Right afterwards, a person can say, oh my God, what's happened here? I don't know what this is. I don't know what happened. There are so many permutations and combinations. I would have to say no. It's a story.
So you would find that person legally sane? Is that what you're saying?
No, that is not what I'm saying. I'm saying it takes a whole lot more to assess sanity and its definition. But no, that's a story that you made up.
Actually, I didn't make it up, unfortunately. Let me ask you another question about sanity and what you assess. Do you look at a defendant's actions, how the crime was committed, what they did before, during the commission of the crime, and what they did after the crime, and render an opinion as to insanity?
I do that not simply in terms of rendering an opinion of insanity, but it's a very important part of rendering an opinion of neurologic impairment. For example, it's extremely common to ask, particularly if you think that there has been some brain dysfunction, how about before? Before any of this happened, what were you feeling? What were you thinking? How describe that? How about during? Do you remember everything that happened then? Were you told that you did something you don't remember? And how about afterwards? How did you feel? Did you have a headache? Did you throw up? Did you, did you feel unwell? So that before, during, and after is a very, very important sequence. And you would ask it not just in terms of, quote, sanity, but in terms of neurologic impairment and how that affects brain function.
Well, you consider anyone who commits murder to have neurological development issues, don't you?
I'm sorry, say that again?
You consider anyone who commits murder to have neurological issues.
I don't recall ever saying that. Did I give you that impression?
Said it on the HBO documentary. We're saying it there.
What would you quote this? I'm not aware of.
Well, let me rephrase. Do you think anyone who commits murder has a brain injury?
No.
Do you think when you're evaluating someone for insanity and you're asking them these questions that you just talked about, what they thought before, during, and after the crime, that would be important to go back and look at the evidence to see if it's consistent with what they're saying?
Any data that you could get that elaborates on what happened is valuable. I can't say how or what, but of course, anything. Even something where weeks before something could have happened. So that, sure, anything that you can learn about the act before, during, after, and at any time before, during, after is important.
The night before this crime, this murder, on January 26, 2020, the defendant had a video recording of her and Gannon talking about the fire. You recall seeing that?
No.
Think that would be important to look at? What she's saying the night before the murder?
I would have to see it, sir. I can't. I need to look at it and then I'll say, yes, I think it is important or whatever. But
Yeah,
I don't recall it.
Not a problem. We don't have one. We can't play it. Did you not remember looking at that as part of your evaluation?
I'm sorry, I do not recall exactly that. Also, some of what I saw was unclear and the sound was not good, so that I can't be certain of that.
Well, let me describe it to you and see what your thoughts are, okay? So she's, first of all, video recording a conversation she's having with her stepson, who's 11 years old, saying things like, it's okay, we can sell the couch, not a problem. We can sell the couch and fix it. And Gannon says, I'm just worried about my burns, and he's crying. Then she says, it's okay tomorrow, and then she shuts the video off. Okay? Remember seeing anything like that?
I'm sorry, I don't recall it, but again, much of what I saw was not clear, the sound was not good, and I am not aware of having seen that exactly. I am aware of having read that Gannon, that she said he had little bubbles on his arm. So that's the part of that. I'm assuming it's the same issue. That is the part that stayed with me.
Well, what about the part of her having the ability to stop the video after Gannon says I had burns?
I'm not sure what that would mean. What would you have me agree to?
Well, do you think that would be evidence that she didn't want anyone to know that Gannon had burns?
I can't say. I'm not aware of that because she did say that he had little bubbles on his arm. If she didn't want anyone to know that, I don't know why she would have said that.
Okay. 4:36 in the morning, on the morning of January 27th, 2020, she sends a text to her employer saying, I can't come in. My stepfather was just killed in an auto accident. You remember that? We talked about it on the
Yeah.
record a little bit. Pretty significant to you and your opinions.
Yes,
We'll get there in a second. Do you remember the rest of the text string?
the rest of the text. If you remind me, I can tell you if I remember it. I don't know what you're referring to.
Paraphrase, how's
Yeah.
that? So the boss returns, later in the morning because she's not up at 4:30. She says, just let us know what we can do for you. Let me know when you can come in, words to that effect.
Yeah.
And then the defendant texts back and says, I can't believe you can be so inconsiderate. I had a family member just die.
Objection, misstating the text.
I'm paraphrasing.
Overruled.
Remember seeing anything like that?
I remember reading about what to me seemed lackey, if you want, you can call it psychotic, but that made no sense. This man was dead, I think, for 8 years. And to call in and say, she clearly was not thinking clearly or cogently or accurately. And it was one of these ridiculous kinds of excuses that a person of her intellect would not be expected to volunteer. There's you'd almost say a stupidity about it, but she isn't stupid. There's something
let me
wrong
stop you, doctor.
with how she's describing this.
Couldn't it be that just didn't want to go to work that day? Could that just be out of the realm of possibility?
Unlikely, but possible.
And she had other things to do that day? She didn't want to go to work?
I think it's unlikely.
And you also know that her stepfather actually died in 2004, correct?
I know he died for 8 years, I believe, prior to this.
Well, let's do the math.
I'll go by your math. Okay.
Okay. She was also able to call in to Gannon's school and say Gannon's not going to be coming into school that day either. You seen that?
Absolutely.
Nothing psychotic about that.
At the time that I read that, became aware of it, I was puzzled because I thought, gee, then he must have been dead then. Why is she calling in? And it really did not make a lot of sense to me to be calling in one person who died 8 years ago was having a funeral that day, and Gannon couldn't go to school, but I learned subsequently that he is reportedly dead a lot later than that, so that it's a puzzle why she called in to say he couldn't come in.
It had nothing to do with maybe planning and what she's going to be doing.
I don't know. It could have had to do with planning.
Okay. And then you know that she also sent a text to her husband, Al Stauch, saying, hey, well, let school know that Gannon's not coming in today. Instead, he had some stomach issues the day before. For that one?
No.
The stepfather, you said that was psychotic or evidence of psychosis.
I don't know what you're referring to, sir. Could
The fact
you?
that she calls into school and saying my stepfather just died.
I think it's peculiar. It's bizarre. I'm not sure what that was all about, what she was thinking, why she did that. It doesn't make sense. It's a bit of a leap to call it psychosis right now, but it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make logical sense.
Does it make sense that she may circle back to that at a time where she wants people to feel that she's mentally ill, blame it on her stepfather because it's on record that she's already talked about her stepfather dying? Does that make sense at all to you?
Doesn't make sense to me, no.
And then the morning of the 27th at approximately 8:14 a.m. and then again at 8:16 a.m., she takes pictures of Gannon in bed and sends them to her husband, Al Stauch. Do you remember seeing that?
I don't recall seeing. No.
Not unusual behavior.
I beg your pardon.
Is that unusual behavior? Taking a picture of a child sleeping in his bed?
It's behavior. I don't know what kind of behavior.
Do you think she might have been taking pictures to show that Gannon was still alive that morning?
She might have been.
And then you talk about it with her in the interview, and you know from reading the police reports that her and Gannon leave the house about 10:20 in the morning. They go to Petco. Remember that part?
Yeah, in parts. Yeah.
And they take Al Stauch's red Nissan truck. Remember that?
I don't recall it was a red Nissan truck, but I recall it was a truck that actually I thought it was her truck. Could have been his.
And you can actually see Gannon walking to the back left passenger side, rear left door of the truck and get in. Remember seeing that video?
I don't recall seeing it, but I may have read other people saw it. I just don't have a clear memory of that particular film.
Now, in the video, you can see the clothing that Gannon's wearing. You see sweats with a white stripe going down them. You remember seeing that?
As I told you, I don't remember seeing that particular thing. But again, the equipment I had was not clear, and there was no one there with me to say this is what we're seeing now. So that, but I don't question this, that there was that there's it's peculiar that here he is walking around, and if I understand correctly, she had already called the school and said that he could not come in. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He's homesick. She's home because she's telling people that her stepfather died, and they decide to go shopping. Playing hooky.
Oh, was that buying cat toys? Was it? I forget, something like that.
Needless to say, Gannon's wearing the same clothes that he was found in under a bridge on March 17th, 2020. They leave that morning.
I believe you.
Now, at the time that she drives that truck around and goes to Petco, does she have the capacity to know right from wrong?
I don't know. That's a leap where, if you can't talk to the person and you don't see more, I don't know.
You talked to her. Did you ask her that?
I don't recall asking specifically, did you know right from wrong at this point? I don't know, and I don't know the answer to that.
Would it be a stretch to say she did know right from wrong? The fact that she was able to go to Petco, run errands, and come back later that afternoon with no tickets, no accidents.
That she knew right from wrong then?
Sure.
I don't know. I would think, having called into school and having said that this child can't come in, and then taking him on a field trip to Petco, that she really did not have a good idea of what she was doing or why she was doing it. And I'm not sure that the idea of right from wrong is applicable to this just particular episode. It's wacky. But it's
Is she legally insane at the time she's driving to Petco again?
I don't know. I think you would have to, I would have to know a whole lot more.
If you don't know a lot more, can you come in here and say that she was legally insane based on her driving to Petco with Gannon that day?
I can't say because I don't know enough about it.
They get back about 2:20 p.m. and there's video of them coming back. Do you remember seeing that?
Again, I remember knowing about it. What I saw and what I remember reading, I can't distinguish the two, but I do recall that I believe it was at 2 that there was a return.
And we see a leg drop on the right rear passenger door right about the time that the driver's door opened. Do you remember seeing that?
No,
Well, she tells you that they both come home together, right? When she's talking to you.
I'll buy that. Sure.
Do you not remember that?
Again, I don't remember word for word when she told me these things. And also, since I read other people's accounts of them, I can't tell you exactly where a piece of information came from.
Anything about the video about them coming back at 2:20 p.m. that would lead you to believe that she didn't have the capacity to know right from wrong?
It's a tough one to say right from wrong versus that she didn't know what on earth she was doing. And
I'm just asking if she had the capacity, if she was able to know right from wrong.
I don't know that.
You know from the video that they sit in the truck for approximately 30 seconds as the truck is there before the doors open?
No,
Is it unconceivable that they might have been talking to each other
no, or not,
or arguing with each other?
or not.
The autopsy report. You've read that, right?
Right.
The autopsy report tells you a lot about how the killing took place, does it not?
I think so.
And the autopsy report tells you that there was at least 18 cut wounds and stab wounds.
Right.
And a lot of those were defensive wounds on Gannon.
Some, yeah. Some on his hands.
He was fighting back, right?
As far as we know, yes.
Is there indication that whoever did that had the capacity to form the intent to kill?
I don't know. I would think so. I would think so.
Just based on the stab wounds alone, right?
Well, it certainly had that quality of, as I thought about it, whether there was an automatic quality to it, which is partly why I wanted certain neurologic tests done, because there was a repetition, as I recall. But there were signs on his hands of cut marks. So there
Fighting back, right?
looks that way to me.
And the location of the stab wounds, three in the chest, one in the head, several in the back and arms that we already kind of talked about. Does that indicate to you that whoever did this had the capacity to form the intent to kill?
That's a stretch for me because when individuals keep doing this kind of act over and over and over again, it can be an attempt to kill, but it can also be a repetitious kind of automatic act. And not having been there, and I don't know what the state of mind was, whether there was a kind of an automatic going about this, or whether there was a real, gee, I haven't killed him now, I'd like to kill him.
Well,
That I don't know.
Let me have you take off your psychiatrist hat for just a second and just do sense. Based on the stab wounds alone, whoever commit this crime had the capacity to form the intent to kill.
I cannot answer that for the reason that I've just told you, that I don't know whether the person was automatically doing something which, with certain types of complex partial seizures, occur, where a person just keeps, they may do something not at all violent. They may button and unbutton their coat. They may turn a light on and off and just keep doing it. And they may just keep doing that. Or they may say, not dead yet, I want to kill them. So that I don't know for sure what was going on in the head of the person doing this. I
Okay,
can
well,
only
let's,
say there are at least two possibilities.
let's move on from the stab wound.
Yeah.
Fact that there was blunt force trauma, i.e. some sort of object was used, caused 4 head injuries, one of which crushing Gannon's skull, causing skull fractures.
Right.
The fact that another instrument was retrieved and used lead to the opinion that whoever did this had the capacity to form judgment and reflection, and also had the capacity to form the intent to kill.
I think you could interpret it that way, or you could say the person felt threatened, felt endangered. By the way, I did not understand where that came from or how, with all of those stab wounds, where this item came from. Perhaps I missed something in the report. But,
Well, let me stop you right there, because in your report, you said you thought it may have been a baseball. Remember writing that in your report?
I'm sorry, I don't recall that. But it could have been a fear that the person himself or herself was being threatened, and that the wish was to get rid of this threatening, murderous object. I don't know what was going through her head.
What about the blunt force injuries to her Gannon's head, the 4 themselves?
I'm sorry, I don't have a good understanding of the object or of that particular aspect of the injury. So
Why does the object matter?
I don't know. I would have to know.
The point is, they decided to move from a knife and go to another object, continue on with the killing, correct?
I'm not correct. I don't know what came first or what came second. And I'm not sure how when you're stabbing someone, you get around to hit them on the back of the head. It puzzled me, and I still don't know what was going on at the time or in the person's head. For all you know, the person could have felt threatened and felt that something was of danger to her. I don't know what was going through her head at the time.
Well, there's an 11-year-old boy who has 18 stab wounds lying in his bed.
Right.
And then she takes an object and crushes his skull. Does that indicate that he's fighting back at that point?
I'm sorry, I don't know enough about the.
Did you look at the crime scene pictures?
I looked particularly at the autopsy. I remember I'm not as clear of the crime scene pictures, except for the spatters of blood and this sort of thing. But I don't know what was going through her mind when this was happening. Was she defending herself? Was she attempting to kill him? The puzzle is all other data say that she loved him, and that he loved her. And
Loved him quite a bit, didn't she? The next thing she does is she gets another object, gun. The fact that she gets a gun, does that tell you she has the capacity to use it and reflection? It's the capacity to form the intent to kill.
I don't know, sir. When I spoke with her, her memory was, I could see a gun in my hand, and I do not know what was going through her head, or why there was a gun, or why she shot this. It would be a leap for me to speculate on this. It is not clear that she simply wanted to kill this. This is a child she loved. As if we believe what other people said, she loved Gannon, so that
And so I just want to make sure I'm
I don't know
understanding.
that she wished to kill him. I don't know that it was even he that she wished to kill. Clearly, she did kill him, but we don't know whether at the time she saw Gannon and she was trying to kill Gannon. We don't know.
So her actions mean nothing to you with
I
regards
think
to,
that's a leap. Her actions mean nothing to me. No.
well, everything's a leap to you. I just want to know what that means to you. The fact that she used 3 separate instruments to kill Gannon. Did she have the ability to make decisions when she did that?
What I'm saying is I can't be certain what was going on in her head because I pondered it and I thought, what on earth? How did she get this, whatever the blunt instrument was? When did it happen? And then when I think more than one person said that she loved this child, so that it certainly made me wonder whether she was misperceiving something there. And
Well, then let's go forward then, because what does she do after she does all that? She drags his body to the storage room and stuffs it in a large green suitcase. She had the capacity to know right from wrong when she did that.
It would certainly seem she knew that this was something that should not have happened.
And does that corroborate the actual killing, that she had the capacity to form an intent to kill, the capacity to use judgment and reflection, the fact that she immediately stuffs his body in a suitcase after?
I don't know for sure.
What about cleaning up the crime scene? After she stuffs his body in a suitcase, she goes back to the room and cleans all the blood off the wall. Not all of it. Does she have the capacity to know right from wrong when she's cleaning Ann's bedroom?
She certainly believes that other people will believe that she had done something horrendous or something terrible had happened. That's, I guess, as far as I can go right now.
Now, she then goes back to the storage room and throws a bunch of boxes on a green suitcase in the storage room. You've seen pictures of that?
Again, I've seen a lot, so that I don't recall those particular pictures.
And then the police come about 10:09 that evening, January 27th, and they search the entire house. And her demeanor is calm, cool, and collected. And went to some friend's house, didn't come. Makes those statements with her demeanor like that. Is that evidence that she had the capacity to know right from wrong?
I don't think evidence that she knew right from wrong. We don't even know whether she knew what she had done. I don't think that that's evidence she knew right from wrong.
What about, is it evidence of psychosis?
It certainly sounds out of touch with reality.
When someone's in a psychotic state, it's pretty obvious, right?
No.
Looking around.
Wrong. No, sorry. That's television. No.
Okay. So someone in a psychotic state can act normal and have a normal conversation with a police officer when their stepson is in the storage room underneath a bunch of boxes in a suitcase?
Particularly if the person does not know that she has done that, or that this is what the status is. That, you know, we don't know what, but there's something really odd about being in that a very calm sort of state. Here she has reportedly murdered a child she loved. This makes no sense. This is psychotic. Did she kill that boy? Did she think she'd killed him? Was it that boy? Did she remember what had happened?
Well, let's talk about the next day then, if she remembers. Because the next day at 6:20 in the morning, she drives her Tiguan out of the garage and is gone for 10 minutes and it comes back. Remember that?
I don't remember that specifically here.
And then later that morning at 8:30, she goes to pick up Al, her husband, at the airport. Remember that?
Yes.
Young, could you find a reasonable breaking point in the next 5 minutes or so?
Sure, how can you? When she leaves at 6:22 a.m., I think she might be looking to see if anybody's watching.
That's a speculation. I don't know.
When she leaves at 8:30, do you know who's in the car with her?
I'm assuming that that the body is in the car. Is that what you're referring to?
Absolutely. Body that you just said that she may have forgot about. She didn't remember killing and putting in the suitcase, hiding in the storage room. That body.
Yes.
Gets the body out of the storage room, takes it upstairs, puts it in the back one, drives to the airport. Sound familiar?
Is that a question?
Yeah. At the time she does that, does she have the capacity to know right from wrong?
I don't know, because it is approximately then when she thinks that, at least what she says to some people is, she thinks that she can bring this body back to life. And she says that she brings him or tries to get him a hamburger. That ought to do it. And then I believe she even tries to get him ice cream. This is psychotic thinking. This is.
Oh, that's what she's saying. What actually happened is she drove directly to the airport, parked the Tiguan, left Gannon's body in the back of the Tiguan, rented another car, and now her went home. That's what happened. What she's saying is psychotic because she wants you to think it's psychotic, correct?
I can't say that's correct. I can say you believe that's correct.
Okay. Yeah, this is a good time to stop.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will take our morning recess. If I can have everyone back in the jury room at, say, 10:40, we should be able to start on time at that point. Again, don't discuss the case among yourselves. Don't discuss the case with anyone else. And we will see you back at 10:40. All rise for the jury, please. Yeah. Thank you. May all be seated. Record should reflect the jury has left the courtroom. Court will be in recess until 10:40.
All rise.
I have no words. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to act. I feel that I am, I don't even know what happened. I really do not. I am so, I just don't know even what to say. I don't. This is so much more than, wow. I'm blown away, you guys. I'm completely, I don't even know. I have to wonder, bruh, did you even interview this woman? Did you talk to her at all? Did you ask her any questions? I don't understand. Okay, wait, hold on. I just lost it. Just give me a sec. I've disassociated completely. Hold on. I want to highlight this comment. Okay. So the reason that this doctor is being questioned about the crime is because that is what is the most important element to her testimony. Was Letecia legally sane or insane at the time that she committed this crime? So, as we watched with Dr. Torres administered tests, which, to be fair to Dr. Lewis, that is not her type. She is a psychiatrist. That is not something that they typically, as I understand it, do. Okay. And so but Dr. Torres, when she evaluated Letecia, she administered tests, the MMPI, etc. Okay. But she also listened to what Letecia said when she describes shooting Gannon, what was occurring before, when, at the time she shot him, because that's all Letecia will admitted to on those sanity evaluation tapes with Dr. Torres and Dr. Gray was, and she listened, and there were some follow-up questions after the fact, right? And then she took all of that information in conjunction with the known facts of the case, other reports, etc. And that's how she and Dr. Gray came up with the fact, their belief, which I agree with, is that Letecia was legally sane at the time of the crime, that what she reported does not rise to the level of the legal of insane under the law, basically. Okay, to put too fine a point on it. And the problem with Dr. Lewis is that she I do want to highlight this, but I lost track. I'm so discombobulated due to this testimony. I get people say he's being mean, but this woman is claiming Elle was insane at the time, and she literally knows nothing about what happened. How can she testify that she was legally insane? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the problem here. She does not take everything, she does not take the totality of all of the circumstances and into consideration. And it would appear, at least from her testimony at this point in time, right, what she just now said, that essentially it's like she didn't ask Letecia anything about this crime. And in my opinion, lies are not indicative of not remembering. Saying that obviously she remembers on some level what happened, right? Because she admits to shooting Gannon. So how is it that she is remembering a portion of the crime and the things that she did, but not other portions? To me, and I'm not qualified to diagnose or treat or anything like that, but it does raise some questions, and it's problematic for me, frankly. I mean, it's just that simple. And if I cannot understand it, there's a good chance that the jury cannot understand it either. And they're going to have the same questions. How is it possible that she is able to recall parts of the crime, but not others? And that is what it is incumbent, and why Dr. Lewis was asked to testify, frankly. That's it. It's that simple. That's it. I mean, there's no other there's nothing else really more to say than that. She should be able to tell what the F went on. That's just the truth. That's just the truth. So I don't understand any of this, to be quite honest with you. I really don't. And I don't understand how she is going to be able to convince this jury that she was legally insane. And I will tell you guys this. So when it comes right down to it, at the end of the day, we're going to know exactly what's in the jury's head, because as soon as they are able to, they're going to ask questions. And I don't know how many of those questions will be actually asked of the witness, because remember, they can't just ask anything, and the questions have to be approved by the judge, and he brings both sides up there to discuss. But I mean, I am completely and totally baffled by all of this. I'm just gobsmacked. I don't even know another word, to be quite frank. I really don't. I really, really do not. I am just floored. It's like I don't even understand. Did she not speak to this woman at all? Ever? What happened here? You know? I'm bless her heart. I mean, I don't want to, you know, um thank you for the PayPal that was just sent. I appreciate that very much. It's very sweet. It's not letting me access to reply right now, but as soon as it does, I will. I promise. I just wanted to say thank you because I couldn't get to thank you on the app. But thank you very much. Anyway, I just they all have selective memories. Bless it. Letecia's got a selective memory. She remembers some things, but not others. Dr. Lewis has selective memory. She remembers some things about her time with Letecia, but not others. And I mean, for Pete's sake, at some point, she went back through her notes, right? And read them, and she was able to recall being told that when Letecia was young, some family member or other recalled that Letecia liked to be called Maria. Okay, great. Perfect. So, what else did you review? Because is that it? You just stopped there? It feels to me like you probably should have, I don't know, kept going, because you clearly need to be refreshed on some things. It's problematic. And I don't I'm not bashing her, because that's not my intent, and I really hope that it's not coming across that way, because my intent is not to bash her at all. Dr. Lewis has had a phenomenal career. She has done some amazing, forward-thinking, innovative case studies, particularly with juveniles. And I'm not bashing her at all. I am just not understanding what happened as it pertains to this case. I don't understand. It seems like there's some huge holes. Let me see. Where did I see this? Hold on. Oh, so I will stay on until the lunch break, right? I'll stay live. When we break for lunch, I'll end, and then I'll come back and then I will come back when we resume for the afternoon session. Although I'm kind of debating that a little bit, and I just want you to hear me out on that, because I really want to be able to recap tonight, and I'm a little torn, but then at the same time, I know that there isn't any court tomorrow. So on that front, I will get a reprieve because I have been trying to um catch up on the Lori Vallow trial as well, because usually on Thursdays I do all of the me and not me by myself. Allie and I usually get together on Thursdays over on my channel, which I don't know. I'm saying over on. We're right here now. See, she's calls me to dissociate. Um, and then we really dive in and talk about it. And so I think what I'll do is I'm just going to press on. I'm going to, stop obviously at the lunch break, grab myself a little bite to eat, and I will then resume because there's no way that I'm going to be watching anyway, and I might as well watch with you guys. You guys are my favorite peeps. So, and I can't agree with Dr. B more than this. This is how I felt last night. And let me just say that to have Dr. B echo my sentiments, and it gives me validation that I'm not being harsh, I'm not being mean, I'm not being impatient, that the truth of the matter, that is how I felt. I felt last night that they sabotaged her evaluation. I felt like I, that's just how I feel. Because I feel like had Dr. Lewis known that, and you, hold on, Allie, just making a frozen coffee again, and I have tea if news about Lori from today. Tons, I bet tons of news about Lori from today. Oh, you guys are welcome. Now I'm going to have the Beastie Boys. Listen, all y'all, let's a sabotage. Listen, all y'all, let's a sabotage. So I do feel that she was sabotaged, and I'm curious if she would have taken a different approach if they had been honest with her in a timely fashion, that they tried. It couldn't be worked out to get this equipment into the jail. Jail rules are jail rules. That's that. And what news? What you got, Corinne? Or are you responding to Allie? You want to come up, Allie, real quick and give us a lowdown before they come back? Here you go. This for Allie. Oh, I love the Beastie Boys. I love them. Breaks every time I think about them. It breaks my heart just a little to know I'll never see them live in concert again. I don't know if they intentionally did it, is the thing, Angels. I really don't. I don't know. Like I'm not qualified. Well, even if I was qualified, I don't have enough information to know what their end game would be. I don't know that it was necessarily intentional, but does it really matter at this point? At the end of the day, the sabotage has occurred. And I feel like let's see. All right, let me, just in case. Hold on. Give me just un momentito, Ellie. Let's go up here real quick. Hold on. I just had it. What the frack? All right, here we go. Give me just a second. I'll add Allie to the stream. Hey, babe, what's going on?
Hey, nothing, just listening to you. But yeah, I was checking Twitter and I'll read to you real quickly exactly what Lori's. Okay, so someone on the stand
Okay,
named.
before we start back
All right,
into the
hold
case,
on.
there's
Hold on. Let me
two
pause.
I need to
Let me pause. All right, hit it. Hit it, sis. All right. You were
Audrey,
checking Twitter, and then what happened?
yeah, a friend of Lori's is on the stand and she details Lori threatening her. And this is what she says. As soon as I turned to go upstairs, she started laughing. Like if you were laughing at someone. She said, "You're so naive and too trusting. You're like a little child. You think the world is all unicorns and rainbows. You go around helping people and serving them. Well, I've got news for you. Not everyone is a good person and not everyone can be so kind." Then she threatened to kill me. She said she would cut me up and wasn't in a mental place to do it, but would get herself in the place to do it. Lori told her there would be blood and bleach and something about trash bags and that she would bury her in a place no one would find her. So,
Holy guacamole.
yeah. Lori, apparently threatened her like that, and she testified to it today. And and I'll try to find some other things, and I'll get off here and we'll finish listening to court. But I had to tell you about that one.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for coming up and telling me because that is, you guys, this has all been bananas. And the last few days, I don't know if Mercury, what is it that Jax from Vanderpump Rules says? Oh, Mercury is in Gatorade or what is going on? But like all hell has broken loose essentially in these cases. There's been like back to back to back days of just bombshell revelations. And
Yeah,
wow.
I know, crazy. All right, I'm gonna go so we can finish listening. I'll talk to you about it more later. Love you
Okay,
guys.
babe. Love you too. Bye. All right, now, evidently, there's something going on in the courtroom that needs to be addressed before the jury comes in. So, here we go.
address that have come to my attention. One is I've issued general orders regarding usage of cell phones, video cameras, all of that stuff. What we have provided for the general public is that they can capture what is being broadcast as a webinar. They can rebroadcast that, and that's fine. Everyone here needs to understand, everyone in this courtroom is prohibited at any point in time from audio or video recording any part of this proceeding in the courtroom. Don't have your phones out. There's not a reason for it. There are press that are here that may be part of pool press. They may be part of some other commercial entity for press, and that's fine. But even they are not recording any part of this proceeding. If that happens, it could be, number one, your phone gets confiscated. It could be, number two, you face direct contempt proceedings with me. Don't do it. Second issue is, I know that we have some people from out of town. I know that we have some people from out of state. And I know that perhaps they're not familiar with the laws in the state of Colorado or the etiquette and procedures for this courtroom and this building. This entire building, the El Paso County Combined Courts, in its entirety, is a non-smoking facility. Also understand, we have cameras everywhere in the building. So when you leave this courtroom and you go down a hallway, and then you go into a stairwell, and you're smoking, we know who it is. Especially if you've been warned about it before and you go down to another stairwell and smoke. I want to be very clear. There is no smoking of either tobacco or marijuana products anywhere in the courthouse at any point in time. Anybody who is here that I learn continues to do that, I may bar from the courthouse pending the outcome of this trial. So, two things: no phones, no smoking. Let me ask, anybody in the gallery have any questions about that? Raise your hand. No response. All right. I'll take that as everybody that's in the courtroom understands my message clearly, and I don't have to take any further action regarding it. Is there anything else that we need to take up outside the presence of the jury? Prosecution?
No.
Defense?
No, sir.
Okay, let's go ahead and bring the jury back in.
I mean, yeah, it is legal in Colorado, recreationally and medicinally, but it is not legal for you to be doing it anywhere and everywhere just because it's legal in the state. Holy guacamole. Well, yesterday, 22 Tantrums was in the courtroom, and she reported that her son, DorothyLewis's son, came in and smelled like mota, and he smelled like cigarettes. So at two different intervals. At first, it smelled like mota, and then at the second time, it smelled like cigarettes. So, all right.
And it was in the T1, yes.
She thought this out, right?
Yes.
It was not on
Rational
my
thinking?
bingo card either, Law Nerd Amber. This is
That's a
crazy.
leap.
All right, I'll be
Thinking,
right
yes.
back.
Okay. Is she psychotic when she's making these decisions to rent a car and leave the body in the T1 at the airport?
Again, speculation. I don't know.
We're now into January 28th, 2020. Al and her go home in the rental car, the Kia. You remember reading about that?
Yes.
And then about 4 p.m. that day, she leaves in the rental car and goes back to the airport. Do you remember seeing that?
Reading about it, perhaps, yeah.
Is it inconceivable that she's going back to check on the Tiguan to make sure no one's disturbed it?
Any speculation is possible.
Is that rational thinking under the circumstances?
Don't know.
If the body's in your car, you want to make sure no one's messed with it?
Body's in your car, you might want to avoid going anywhere near that car so that you're not involved with it. So that I think it would be speculating to say this is why or that's why. I don't, we don't know why.
That's fair. But we do know that she goes back to the airport once again on the 28th at 7 p.m. Correct? You remember that?
I believe you. I'm sorry, I don't remember the numbers or the times, but certainly seems likely.
She leaves the white rental car, the Kia, in short-term parking, keeps the keys to that car, and leaves the airport in the Tiguan. Is that rational thought processes under the circumstances?
I have no idea why she's doing that. I can't say it's rational, irrational. She did it. It would be speculation without finding out more.
Well, is it evidence that she had the capacity to know right from wrong, collecting Gannon's body that way?
No.
She takes the Tiguan and leaves, puts her phone on airplane mode, and drives for several hours. And we're mapping her on our Life 360 app. Do you remember seeing that?
No, I recall becoming aware of it in one way or another, seeing or reading about it. Go ahead.
And as she's doing this, she's texting her daughter, Harley, don't open the door. don't talk to the police, that kind of thing. Is that evidence that she has the capacity to know right from wrong?
Again, it suggests that she has the capacity to know that that she could be in great trouble if this were not hidden. You know, knowing right from wrong is such an abstract. It's hard to comment on that.
Certainly, if she would have stayed with Gannon's body in his bedroom, that might be some good evidence that she didn't have the capacity to know right from wrong. Didn't think it was wrong to kill him, right?
Again, that's one interpretation.
And of course, that didn't happen here, correct?
That she stayed with him?
Right.
She did not stay with him.
Because what she does is she eventually drives her Tiguan up to Palmer Lake, which is a small town north of Colorado Springs. If you're not familiar with it. She finds an isolated spot, drop the suitcase off on the side of the road. That evidence that she had the capacity to know right from wrong and trying to hide the body again.
Again, she had the capacity to know that she needed to hide the body. I don't know. I can't move on to yes, she knew right from wrong. That again, it's an abstraction, and I can't comment on knowing right from wrong simply from that.
Is that evidence that she's suffering some kind of psychosis? The fact that she goes to an isolated spot to hide the body?
Maybe, don't know.
Is it also evidence that she may not be suffering from psychosis? The fact that she knows to go to an isolated spot and hide the body?
Maybe.
During this whole time, she's texting with Harley and still controlling what Harley's actions are. Do you remember seeing that?
You would have to remind me.
She's multitasking. She's kind of controlling what's happening at her house as well as getting rid of the body.
I'm sorry, I have not juxtaposed that, but if you clarify what she was saying to Harley, perhaps I can say something.
Don't talk to the cops. Don't talk to the police, that kind of stuff. Don't let them in the house. You consider that to be a form of manipulation?
Certainly a form of trying to control what happens.
Around midnight, between the 28th and the 29th of January 2020, she meets Harley close to Harley's place of employment. Ever reading about that?
Not specifically, but
and she leaves her Tiguan there. Harley then takes her back home in her car. The fact that she's thinking about leaving the Tiguan somewhere other than her own home, is that evidence that she has the capacity to know right from wrong?
again, it shows the capacity to know what will be regarded as incriminating or not in her best interest. Again, right from wrong is abstract, and I hesitate to comment on that specifically.
Well, I'll ask you this then. Did she know the fact that if there was blood in that Tiguan, it might be incriminating?
I would think so, yes.
The next morning, her daughter Harley gives her a ride back to the airport, where she takes the keys that she still has for the rental car, the Kia, that she left in short-term parking the day before. And she tosses the keys to an Avis representative out on the sidewalk at the airport. That evidence that she has the capacity to hide the fact that she is no longer in that rental car and was in the Tiguan the night.
I don't know.
Her daughter Harley then gives her a ride back to where her Tiguan is, where it was at all night by her place of employment. Massage Envy, you didn't know. Okay. And she then is talking to detectives at the El Paso County Sheriff's Office saying, I'm on my way. I want to come down and interview with you. Remember that evidence?
Again, I've probably read it, but I don't specifically remember that, but I'll certainly believe you.
And she drives the Tiguan to the sheriff's office, which is right across the street from the courthouse. And on her way, she stops and washes the Tiguan. Ever reading about that?
Not specifically, but again, certainly I could have it. I just don't remember specific.
At that point, does she have the capacity to destroy incriminating evidence by washing the Tiguan?
Yes.
When she gets to the sheriff's office, she's interviewed. And this is what the story that you alluded to yesterday about Eduardo and the rape happening. You remember that story?
That I remember.
Jury probably remembers it too. We're not going to get into the whole interview, but I do want to talk about a couple things that she says in that interview, okay? In that interview, she alludes to the fact that Eduardo took a suitcase. Remember that portion of the interview?
You'd have to continue on.
Weird, isn't it? You're describing being raped, your stepson's kidnapped, and by the way, the kidnapper took a suitcase.
It's wacky. It is
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Do you think it might be an indication that she knew that Gannon's body was in a suitcase out in Palmer Lake at that time? And if someone was to find the body, she had an explanation as to how the body got.
Could be.
Pretty rational thinking, isn't it, under the circumstances?
I don't think much of what she was thinking was rational, sir. So that, again, that's a
What about smart? Was that smart to tell the officers that?
Again, that's a judgment call. The whole thing is so convoluted and wacky that to call it smart doesn't quite hit the mark.
The other crazy thing that she says is, after he raped me and kidnapped Gannon, he just leaves the gun at the house and then leaves.
Yeah, that's great. That is crazy.
Yeah. But is it really crazy? Because she knows the gun is still in the house, and that's the gun that she used, and she has to have an explanation on why that gun was used.
I don't know if it was really crazy. It sounds crazy to me.
Or really smart, right?
Not to me, but
Setting up the story.
again, you're thinking more logically, I think, than we can give her credit for through much of this. But I find crazy what you find logical.
It's crazy when people kill their kids.
It's crazy when you say Eduardo comes and rapes her and takes off Gannon. It's the whole concept is crazy. It if a little bit of it is seems logical that a gun was here or there, the whole story of Eduardo is crazy.
Yeah, that's why she changed it later on and came up with Quincy Brown and some other stories, right?
I don't know why. Because she realized it was crazy and then changed it.
Yeah.
Less crazy.
People who are pathological liars, when they lie, they tend to have small crumbles of the truth in it, and they have no problem changing that lie to something else. Isn't that true?
This is what your understanding is of a pathological liar. I can't, I can't ascribe to that or not. This is what you believe.
What do you believe? You've interviewed hundreds of people on death row. Have you ever come across any of those individuals who may have not been honest with you?
Oh, yes, from time to time, sure.
That may have been, have antisocial personality disorder?
May have.
Were they manipulators? They're pathological liars. They had no sympathy.
This is a bit of a fantasy, and
I don't know what's a fantasy about. I'm just asking you, have you ever come across anybody like that?
exactly like that, I would say no.
Never come across anyone with antisocial personality disorders?
Certainly, I've come across many people who have been so diagnosed.
And those are some of the criteria of antisocial personality disorder, are they not?
There are some of them.
Jump forward to January 31st, 2020, okay? Her family now has come to Colorado. Her aunt has rented a Nissan Altima from Denver and drove it down to Colorado Springs. Remember reading about that?
No.
Nothing crazy about that, right?
Don't know the ultimate, but
That Altima, at some point on January 31st, a tracking device is placed on it, a GPS tracking device. You remember reading about that?
yes, I think so. Yeah.
And then her family, including her daughter, her brother, indicate that Ms. Stauch disappears for 2 hours that afternoon, January 31st, 2020, in the Nissan Altima. Remember where she goes?
You'd have to remind me. No.
She goes right back to that same spot in Palmer Lake where the body is. Is that evidence that she has the capacity to know right from wrong when she goes back to collect Gannon's body?
In my opinion, that's evidence of stupidity. If you want to cover up something that you've done, you don't drive back to the body. You just don't do that.
But she did.
Yeah, it's not too smart and not too well thought out, but she did.
Is it not conceivable that I didn't hide the body good enough? I'm gonna go get it. I'm driving to Florida, be better off in the Gulf of Mexico than where it was at. Is that inconceivable?
You've just conceived it so that clearly you've thought about it. I don't think it's the smartest thing to do or the best way to hide your implication in a death, to drive back to where the body has been placed. Not smart.
Probably a panicky thing to do, right? Criminals aren't the smartest
Not
people.
necessarily panicky, not smart.
And we know what happens after that, right? She rents a van, and her and Harley take Gannon's body in the back of that van and drive to Pensacola, Florida. Surely you know about that.
This is when she drives with her
Right.
daughter.
That's something you remember from reading in the police reports?
From perhaps numerous sources.
Along the way, Ms. Stauch is able to rent hotel rooms. She's able to deceive the people at the hotel. So she works for the Ford Motor Company. We only need one room, one person, no pets, no one else. Remember reading about that?
Not specifically.
The whole trip to Florida, do you see any evidence of psychosis or any evidence that she didn't have the capacity to know right from wrong during that trip?
I'd have to say I see neither the capacity nor a lack of capacity there. It's to my mind, it's incredibly peculiar behavior to drive that distance with a body, and the body of a child that you allegedly loved, in the back of your car. There is.
I'm glad you used the word allegedly there, because you're familiar with a search that she did on her phone that was later deleted by her that says, "I don't like my stepson." Remember that search?
I'm aware of the statement, "I don't like my stepson."
Kind of contradicts what you've
I
been
think only
saying the whole.
once. I think I only became aware of that once, but it could have happened again. I don't know.
So she takes Gannon's body and dumps it over a bridge in Pensacola. That evidence that she has the capacity to know right from wrong when she once again is hiding Gannon's body.
Again, I don't know if that shows she knows right from wrong.
And then his body was discovered on March 17, 2020 by a Macon ponder. Do you remember reading about that?
I remember reading that it was found.
Bridge inspector who inspects that bridge every 2 years just happened to be there on March 17, 2020, and he finds the suitcase.
Okay.
If that suitcase is never found, do you think we'd be here today on an insanity case?
I can't answer that. I don't know.
I want to talk about the interview that you had with her, the forensic interview that took place over a period of 3 days in November. Okay, I'm going to play some clips of those interviews with you. But before I do that, going into this interview, do you have any concerns that Ms. Stauch may not be truthful with you during the interview?
Of course.
Skepticism, right? That we talked about yesterday.
Of course.
And so with that, Your Honor, and some of these clips are shorter than others. I know you may be more comfortable sitting there, but if you want to get in your wheelchair and go somewhere else, we can do that.
Wherever I could see it more clearly, because I have not seen it as clearly or heard it as clearly as I would like. If there's a better spot, that would
There's
be
a
good.
TV right behind you, and then the other TV's here. So you can work out whatever you want to do, Doctor. I mean,
Let me figure it out.
you tell me, and then
Yeah.
we'll start when you're ready. We're gonna go.
I wonder, can we move this back a little and can we see, can I hear this clearly?
You're gonna be able to, you're gonna be able to hear it clearly. We could also get you in a wheelchair and put you
I-
right here, so that would be easier.
Well, why don't we try it? If it isn't clear, we can pause and go.
Yeah, let's.
Yeah.
Well, here's the deal, Doctor. I'm going to ask you some questions after the clips. Okay. And so this one's, I think, only about 5 minutes long. I'm going to try it from sitting there and see how it works out. And then we can go to plan B if we have to.
Well, yeah, we certainly could. What I would like to do is grab a pad or something so that if something strikes me that I see, I can jot it down and recall it.
No problem.
And I can
Do
just.
we have a
wait,
pad or
Mr.
something?
Lee,
Yeah.
While you're, when you come back, it's okay. When you come back, if you hit both of the green buttons so the perimeter lights are out, it may help her see a little bit better.
Okay. That?
Yeah, and the other one. Yep. There you go.
And so for the record, we're going to start with People's Exhibit 729, which is an interview that took place on November 15th, 2022 in the morning time. And before we hit play, Doctor, we have a freeze frame here of the video. Obviously,
Of the what?
it's just the video is paused so we
Yeah.
can see the image. Do you see Miss Stauch there in the center of the video?
Yes.
Who are the other two people behind her?
I see Caitlin and I see the foot. I assume it is of Josh. Is that, I'm not sure. Is it?
That's Mr. Tony?
Yes.
Now, are you seated where Miss Stauch is looking right now?
I think that you can see, I'm not positive. I think those are probably my papers. And so I would have been seated across from her, looking at her and where they could have been in my peripheral vision.
So we're going to start the video at 11 minutes and 5 seconds, and we're going to stop it at 15 minutes and 41 seconds.
Can I try to fix this seat so that I can see what's going on?
It doesn't move. You'd have to adjust your.
Yeah, I'm just trying to turn it.
Oh, okay. It will turn all the way around. There you go.
Okay, we're going to hit play then.
What makes you call your attorney? Well, I don't necessarily call them names, but like, how would I get this name when you talk to them? Like, what do you call them? So I can call them the same. No, I mean, for example, Mr. Meeting or Chuck. I don't call Josh. You call Josh. Yeah. Do all of you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're sometimes, like Maria called me.
And then the bed.
No, like Maria sometimes calls them Premeditation.
It's called B-A-D-E-J.
Like that would be like, it's like Spanish for asshole, but like, that's all she gets mad at.
But they know it's asshole.
Yeah.
Really?
But he's not really an asshole. But yeah, that's far. No, no, that's,
But,
I don't know Spanish, but she does.
Transport.
Well, I mean, yeah, basic, but if you follow them, she knows Spanish.
Who knows?
Maria does.
Maria knows French.
Yeah.
That's in any other language.
I know that my friend said she's taught Russian to her.
But, read in the city for.
I don't,
And you're not aware of any Russian kind of aspect of you.
I know I've been to like a lot of countries and ended up there and I've had to adapt to them and I know that I've been able to talk to people there.
We're still, I still live. By what you're telling me. I'm good, John. Yeah.
I've been to all the islands, all the Caribbean islands.
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't do Dubai.
So I need to sit back further and just, it's too hard to see her from here. Can we move perhaps I can just move the wheelchair over there and look
Sure.
up here.
I can help you out. We paused it at 1311.
Let's see what,
See what we can do here.
yeah. And if we just move that around there, maybe,
Yeah, let's see what we can do.
yeah, okay.
You want to sit back?
Let me see if I can see and hear, this looks a whole lot better.
That looks better.
Yeah, let's see.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
I think, however, I think this is better.
Okay, that's fine. You'll just need to, if you're going to be asked any questions or give any answers from there, you'll just need to speak up so everybody can hear you because the microphone's not there and there are jurors behind you.
And it may be easier, like when there's a question, then I'll just turn her that way.
We can do that.
Okay, Mr. Young.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
Okay, we'll go ahead and resume the video at 1311.
What the date of this, just so I have.
Sure, it's November 15th, 2022 in the morning. Okay, here we go.
She's a princess, went to Dubai, she's a princess, she went to Dubai.
She's not part of you, or
She is,
and so jazz, at what part of you?
she's risky, like, she doesn't look as, like, she's very risky,
What do you call
like, risky, yeah, like, I'm gonna say, like, don't get me in trouble.
it? Yeah.
Can't go out, I party a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not a partier.
You're not a part of it. So, how's Jess? I'm getting the picture.
So like what happened is something really happens where they're like really stressed out. I can be at like work and be okay and something stressful will happen and then I'll just end up right somewhere.
End up on the plane. Do you know how you got to the plane?
It's like my body goes through the motions. Like obviously I gotta get a passport, buy a ticket, but then I don't really remember doing all of it.
You don't remember.
I know it sounds crazy, but
No, it doesn't.
but like okay, so like if you see my credit card's like me, and I'm like, oh okay. obviously she did it, because obviously it's under my name, Letecia, and my body's gotta know that that's whose credit card he got comes to be able to pay for it, but then at the same time, like, I won't know I've done it, so I'm on the plane, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to this place, or I'm going to that place, find herself somewhere, not really. I did it a lot, it's in the past. He just drew me wine, like, oh, I didn't remember when it's wine bottle. Simple things like that, all the way up until being in the country. I met that a lot where my daughter's even texting me, and they're like, Mom, it says you're in the middle of the ocean. I'm like, oh, I am. Because, and her, one time I was in Jamaica. So you were there, fine. Oh, I got a plane to live in Jamaica, but I was also at work at Harding and let me in with me. Well, so maybe Josh can work it out.
Hey, we stopped it at 15:44. Okay. So I'm more than happy to help out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I did not get all of her words there, so.
If the question I ask you, if you want to have us replay something, we can do that, okay?
Or perhaps if someone could reread it and,
I'll do my best to paraphrase. How's that?
Right.
Okay? In the beginning, you asked the question about how she refers to her attorney, Josh. You remember asking that? The question you ask is, do all of you call him Josh? Do you remember asking that question? Why did you ask it that way?
it's something fantasy that where she had talked about other, and that was, I did not make that up myself, that it came from other entities of some sort. I don't recall the earlier part, but knowing myself, I know I wouldn't introduce it, it would have been something.
And I guess, yeah, can the jury hear okay, Your Honor? I just want to make sure.
Looks like it.
Okay, great.
We're getting thumbs up. It's all good.
She talked about Maria having a jail call and speaking Russian. Remember that?
There was something there about the Russian, yeah.
Did you ever see a jail call where the defendant was speaking Russian?
I don't recall a jail call, so I didn't.
That would be something important to you, would it not? If she's saying that, and then lo and behold, there is a jail call where she's speaking Russian, that could corroborate what she's saying, right?
Well, it could. I have to see it kind of in a bigger picture because I remember different things. It had, in retrospect, but it has special meaning because much later, I believe, in my interview, she starts to speak in what sounds like a Russian accent.
And Dr. Lewis, we're going to play that.
Well,
We're gonna-
this is the first time I'm aware that I did not recall that she had mentioned the Russian at this point. It's some kind of entity that sounds like.
And we'll talk about that more when we get that portion of the video. We're gonna play that portion where she's speaking in an accent. Okay?
And one other issue here was, and that puzzled me, but I didn't pause there, was when she said part of her, I thought it might have been Maria, spoke Spanish. And so I kind of caught my ear from my I too did anything speak Spanish. I don't know whether any speak it or whether this is part of thinking it is that sounds speaks
And there's nothing in the record whatsoever, including the records that were given to you by defense, that indicates the defendant has ever spoken to anyone in Spanish.
As far as I could determine, but I sure wanted to know.
Yeah, sure.
It's possible.
Yep. She tells you that she's been to Dubai as Jasmine, and Jasmine's a princess. Remember that?
Well, there's a lot of stuff there.
if she had in fact been to Dubois, that'd be something pretty easy to corroborate, right?
I suppose. I don't think I took it that.
You mean you don't think that she went to Dubois?
Are you saying Dubai, really?
Yeah.
Likely to be at that point.
Okay, so she's making that up?
Well, if she's making it up, or that is a fantasy. Like when we have dreams, and they're very real, and we think we've been there, that at that time that she had been to Dubai, she has a whole history of going to all sorts of different, but she has gone to some of which. Here,
Well, the history would be documented because there'd be plane tickets, there'd be family members knowing that she was gone for a period of time, things like that, that you can corroborate, right?
if at the moment I thought that was an easier thing to corroborate, yeah. I think that it was testimony.
What about Alaska? Remember her talking to you about Alaska later in the interview? How
Oh, yeah, I had trouble with Alaska because
you know what?
Went there, and I think she had gone there.
I meant to say Australia. I'm sorry. I think
You had the same thing I did.
we're having the same problem. She never said she went to Alaska. She said Australia, right?
You did say Alaska.
Oh, she did?
Sir.
Okay.
Not only that, your head is spinning when you stuff this stuff. But later on, I'm pretty sure that she had a husband who was stationed in Alaska. So I was in Real Sutton. And she Alaska, and I believe that I think in my notes I had down that he didn't. I think there's really Alaska.
Alaska happened. They lived in Alaska. Okay. That was my fault. I meant to talk about the Australian trip where she says her and Harley went over there and she blacked out and was on a beach and doing crazy things, she said, and then realized Harley was by herself. You remember that?
It's something like that. And I'm relieved that you were as confused.
And we know there's nothing in the record to indicate that she's ever been to Australia. She also tells you in this clip that she changes personas when she's stressed out. Remember that?
Yeah.
Is that consistent with dissociative identity disorder?
Yes.
A triggering event?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to play the next clip now, okay? We're going to go to, just have a second. We're now going to jump to People's Exhibit 731, which is your interview. What's the date of this? Would be on November 16th, 2022 in the morning. We're going to start this clip at 1 hour, 31 minutes and 50 seconds, and we're going to stop it at 1 hour, 47 and 22 seconds. No, that's for the record, doctor, just so the record indicates what we're playing. Okay. Go ahead and play.
They're being projected as some monster, and like you don't know, you're like looking around and you like, this is not me. I do these things, and I don't, you know what I'm saying? This made this more.
Is it possible that it did state?
Yeah. If I did, I didn't know I did or did not intentionally do it. You know what I'm saying? There was no intention to harm anyone. That would be a local harm. You see what I'm saying?
Because, you know,
Yep.
again, I did not see him. What? See him? Where does he see it?
Yeah.
as said, I did not do that. I did this, not to put that, whatever. But this is one thing that she keeps saying. She didn't do, or else it is. You know, you do get some pretty wacky stories about you think. There is a possibility. It's not clear that. What? Do you think that's possible?
Oh, I said that from the beginning, but I all over the place, because I really, same job.
Is it possible you did that with on state?
I was in what state?
State in one of these states where you were together.
Oh, yeah, I've said that definitely. I know that, but I was not an intention to hurt Gannon. Like, I was never like, no, absolutely not. I love Gannon. I took care of these kids since they were 5 and 2. I've had these kids from coast to coast, country to country.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what do I gain out of hurting a child? Absolutely nothing. Like, I lose everything in my entire life. And not only is it about me being hurt, but other people around me. And if I'm sitting there telling you that I care about all these people, there are other people hurting this. If I was going to hurt somebody, why would it not be these people that are hurting people? No, it would not be to hurt a child. You see what I'm saying? Like, absolutely not. Would not be an intention to be like, okay, that's it, you're done for the day. No, like, that's not how it works. That's the last thing I am doing things right, you know, to do that. I don't work my whole life to do things right, to just be like, today's the day, I'm just gonna blame my entire life and everybody else's. That's not how it works. These people here do this stuff, I don't. You know, really not. It doesn't matter what that's. I mean, you don't take somebody out to go shopping, to do this, do that. You don't go buy somebody Valentine's candy to knock them off the planet.
That day you were pointing out.
Yes. So I don't like, I don't even understand this. That's just not how it works. You don't pay somebody out to Lowe's for this amount of time. You don't go do this, you don't go do this. Like, I don't get it. I've had these kids in Mexico, Alaska, all these places, not a scratch on their body.
Tell me once more. Were you really in Australia?
Yes.
When?
I think it was 2017 or maybe 18.
How did you just wonder?
I went with people. Get my records to see where I went. But I went with there's, I think it was Sam. Oh, Christina, Sam. A lot of people.
And took care of Dennis.
I don't think they live with us then.
So, time to time, they want to get away from this place.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially like they're gone for the summer. I just be on. If you get some good. Because why I bored. Yeah, like that was my life. I would rather packing up also just taking everybody back home to South Carolina and taking care of everybody. My life was much easier like that. Because I can help there. No, they're it's what, no, Landon's mom.
Landon.
Which was Gannon's mom's.
Yeah. Again, this is again, grandmother, help with.
She helped me when we lived there and I had the kids. She helped me. She's the only person to help me. But I also had other people there that could help. Support system, yes. Everything. If I could call ID, I could help. I had other people who programs that I can be like, great, I need to go do this. I can drop them up here for the day. I had support. my first talk with Josh, I asked him what happened. And here, he's, well, by the way, what you would say, no one else was there. And he said that he left a list of 12 explanations that you gave for what happened when because then I'll have a flashback or something, but I don't know if that flashback is a real flashback or not. Yeah. Then I'll have a nightmare about something, so I don't know if the nightmare was a nightmare, but the nightmare wasn't real. So then I wake up with me, that's really going on for hours and hours and hours and hours. Then sometimes I'll have something and I'll try to put together something and it's like, it's really happening. Because then I told you earlier that I didn't know something's really going on, or if this was real or not. Remember I said, I thought this was just one big nightmare. But so, any of it, it's all running together. Because sometimes I don't know what's going on, and what's really not going on. You know what I mean? Then 1 minute something can happen and I'll switch personality and someone will say in the other personality, no, this is what really happened. You know what I mean? Then I'll hear like another voice, still not schizophrenic voice, easy. They'd be like my brother voice, tell me this. So it's like going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, that I drive myself absolutely nuts. So when you ask me why people tell you 100% that I remember, sitting on the couch, and somebody knock, being in the garage, remember I in the garage, I'm go look at the windows, look at someone outside, seeing someone downstairs. But that was the things I 100% remember, but running around frantic, not knowing what's going on. So that's what I guess was like this dream or fantasy or you know that you have that influences what you think happens. But I wrote everything was the neutral. But I don't know how do I know? It could be how do I know? There's people or something I don't know. But I'm saying though, but you don't know because well, one person's telling me this, how do I know? Because this person could be trying to go with that person. You see what I'm saying? Because who knows what that person was really doing? You see what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. No, I'm talking about them. I'm talking about what this person was doing. How do you know? Because 1 minute I was doing this, next minute I was doing this, but another person was doing this because I was doing two things at once. So how do we know? Whether we're in some computer state, and it is not possible to remember what happened. It's not gonna work for me because I'm not like that. I have to know answers. Dude, I wouldn't care if it was just a random person on the street who was a bad person. Yeah, I wouldn't care. Because they would just be a bad person. Yeah. I don't care. But you're like that. See the news every day, bad people, bad things happen to bad people. But when bad things happen to good people, it's hard, especially when I'm sitting there lost. You know, you're there lost. Because there are probably little things that you should remember what happened to get rid of. Yeah, where he's tossed and this or that, the bike has to do. But the sense she's a good memory for.
Yeah.
And there's probably a good reason for why you don't. And you know, you got some sense. It's a lot of preference. But let's talk about why I absolutely believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah. With recent crime. Because I wish I would have just lived, but he asked me just to kid. I don't know, face, I don't know about the face kid charges. But it was, he didn't want me to leave at night until our, God, should have just did it. Isn't that a really good idea? No, but at least we've been saved, at least we've been on the East Coast saved, everybody saved. He wanted to go with me, he knew I was leaving, he wanted to go with me, he did. He said, whatever, mommy and mom, I could stay with you, can stay with mommy and mom. It was fine. His mommy, his nana, his poppy, he would never. The East Coast, yeah, to the East Coast. Is that your mom? No, his mommy, what? No.
His family.
Yeah, his family lived there, so we had.
Yeah, his mom. They were away.
Yeah, he knew I was leaving to go back home to the East Coast. He was like, just take me with you. And I said, son, I cannot. It's kidnapping. Your dad would have me hand over kidnapping because even though I'm your primary caregiver, I can't just take you. And if I would have just did that, everybody would just be fine. So said, what? So what? I don't know. You gotta add that to the mix. Add that added one to me. Trying to figure out. I was trying to leave, but yeah, I have to make sure that they were safe because I didn't want to leave them safe. You don't realize that the kids laying there in Canada, if I would have left them, they would not have taken care of. Yes, money's not everything. They would have had what they needed financially. They would not have anybody to take care of their academics. They would not have anybody to take care of their school stuff like, oh, it's just a day at school. Oh, it's this. They wouldn't have had that. Without me, they had none of that. So they would have lost all those things. They would have just been thrown in babysitters. Who would have babysitted them? Did you ever post in mind that maybe he had stay alone? No, absolutely not. This was my plan. I could not just take them to South Carolina and drop them off at my mother. Should go ahead. And if I did that, they were in just as worse hands than the guard I've taken care of them. Right? So the plan had to be add more to my plate to figure out how am I going to get them safely to their mom so she could get custody back. But at the same time, she needs a house. And in order to get custody back, the woman can get custody back if I help her because I'm the one that reason we got custody was because of me. So I can help get custody back to her. How am I going to do this? Do it correctly. Make sure she has a home. It's killing again. Kim doesn't need to die. What are you talking about? Him dying has nothing to do with that. I didn't come up with any idea of him dying. My point is getting him safely to his mother. Would have been the plan. I could not get him that day. I told him Wednesday I would have worked out with her, but talking to her, getting her a home, I can't just go buy her a home. That's not simple. You see what I'm saying? She's a drug addict. Drug addicts don't listen. They repeat the same cycle over and over and over. So I didn't lose about it. Should have just took them with me, started with school cross country, and then just been like, oh well, one of y'all need to figure it out how to prepare. That's what I should do. Love that day. That's what I should do.
Okay, we started at 1:47:17. Thanks, Mr. Toomey.
Absolutely.
That's right. So I'm going to ask you a few questions about this clip we just saw. and I want to kind of start where we left off, where she's talking about kidnapping and Gannon wanting to go to South Carolina. You remember that?
I found the entire thing incredibly confusing. She had to take care of Gannon and she had to forget. At that point, I was kind of, what in the hell is going on here?
Okay, and Dr. Lewis, Mr. Tony is going to ask you some questions when I'm done. If we can just focus on my question, and then if there's other things you want to add, I'm sure Mr. Tony can ask you about that, okay? Is that fair?
I thought I was responding to it.
No, I want to talk about, well, is it that unusual that an 11-year-old boy wants to be with his mother? And you think that might have an impact on his stepmother, Miss Stauch, the fact that Gannon wanted to be with his real mom?
I don't think that this demonstrated that. It's saying that there was something incredibly puzzling about who wanted to be with whom she loved, whom she was taking care of. I found it utterly confusing.
Do you think that might be a stressor that Miss Stauch talks about? The fact that an 11-year-old boy says, I want my mother, not you.
I don't think that this is what heard there.
Okay. Well,
I don't think we heard that. It's a possibility in another story, in another world.
well, let me just ask you, do you think that's a stressor? The fact that an 11-year-old boy tells his stepmother that I want to be with my mother, not you.
It may or may not, depending on a relationship, depending on mother, depending on so many factors. It's just speculation.
And do you remember in the clip her saying that I couldn't leave them by themselves. I was the only one taking care of them, or words to that effect.
Yeah.
And you know that she had been searching on her phone about moving to Florida by herself, looking for one-bedroom apartments and looking for another man, that kind of stuff. That was well before Gannon was killed, right?
I don't.
Several times during the interview, you look to your right and appear to be talking to Mr. Cellini about this is evidence that she may not remember anything, things like that.
I was trying to figure out from what do you make of this? Is it possible she doesn't remember this? Trying to see if he understood better what was going on there.
Well, and Miss Stauch could hear everything you're saying, right?
I beg your pardon.
Miss Stauch could hear everything you're saying, just like we could.
Absolutely. It was.
And she had already been evaluated by the state hospital and found to be legally sane, right?
They had said that she was sane.
And she already went through this process where she talked to two psychologists explaining what happened and things like that. And now she's talking to you after that. And you think it's okay to say she may not have memory recall of what happened in front of her?
Yes, it was kind of an open question to Mr. Tony. And also, really, it was open to her also. You remember what was going on. In my mind, it was incredibly wasn't clear that she was making complete sense.
And a couple times in this clip, you asked her what we refer to as the leading question. In other words, you said, do you think it's possible that you were in a peculiar state at the time of this? Remember asking those questions?
Yes.
I think it's dangerous to plant those types of words into a defendant's mind when you're doing a first interview.
Well, I think that if this has not come up precisely and it has not been part of the common knowledge that she did go into these kind of, it was sort of I think was happening when we were thinking these things. It did not make sense. And what was making things so confusing?
Okay.
And was evidence, questions, other data that she did seem to go. Or to this was the rush. Knew already. It wasn't adding, oh, gee, you go into these states. We already knew from that this happened. I think is it possible? It's really possible this really did.
Well, but she's never heard it from a doctor who's doing an evaluation for her insanity, that the doctor thinks that she was in a peculiar state. That has an impact on someone, doesn't it?
I believe that I was reflecting what we already knew from previous discussions, and that I was not introducing a new idea, but that this was an established occurrence, and that possible that this or you are in a fun. I didn't know.
Okay. Your Honor, the next clip is about 7 minutes long. We can play that or whatever the court wants to do as far as lunch goes.
I assume you're going to have some follow-up.
Probably.
Clip. It's probably better to play the clip nearer in time to when the follow-up is as opposed to.
I would appreciate that.
Okay. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we will take our lunch break. I have everyone back in the jury room at 1:20. We should be able to start on time at that point. Again, don't discuss the case among yourselves. Don't discuss the case with anyone else. And with that, I'll rise for the jury, please.
Thank you, Joan, for becoming a member. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm glad to have you. Thank you so much. All right, you guys. So that is that. We're going to lunch. And maybe at some point, sometime today, we will be hearing from Maria. Who knows? But I'm going to end it here, and I will be back for the afternoon session. I will put I'll schedule the stream as soon as I end this one, but also I'll post it to the community tab because that seems to help get notifications out, particularly when you have to do like a part 1 and a part 2. All right. So thank you all for being here, and I will see you guys back in a little while for after lunch. All right. Bye.